December. Dolly's music box. The end of the year was here and winter had arrived. The friends all gathered on the hillside and were enjoying the chilly afternoon. When they got hungry, Iris invited everyone to her house for lunch. "That was delicious! Thank you!" they told her when they had finished eating, and they all helped to clear the table. Dolly spotted an odd little box on the shelf that had a ballerina on the top. "What's that?" "It's a music box. Turn the key on the side and you'll see." "It's so beautiful," Dolly dreamed. "Where is it from?" "I bought it at an advent fair on the other side of the hill." "Is it far?" "It's very far. I went on the train," Iris told her. "That's a pity." Time passed and the little beetles all set off home. Berry did not go home, but he went to find the magpie. "Dear magpie, would you please fly to the market and bring a music box back for Dolly?" "Of course, I'll go tomorrow, and if all goes well, I'll be back in no time," he agreed. Christmas was coming, and Berry and Dolly agreed to spend the day together. The ladybird girl had sewn a cushion for Berry. Berry waited for the magpie, but he never reappeared. One day before Christmas, Flutter went to see Berry. "Why are you so upset?" asked the butterfly girl. "I wanted to give Dolly a music box, but the magpie still hasn't brought it. What shall I do? Have you got any ideas?" "We could be a music box. I'll stand on the box and I'll be the ballerina, and we'll ask Bubble to hide inside. Bubble will play music, and I'll turn around on the top like the dancer on Iris's box." "That's a fantastic idea! I'll call Bubble right away," Berry gasped. By the time Berry and Bubble arrived back, the butterfly girl had finished painting the sides of the box. "Come on, Bubble, hide inside," Flutter told him. Bubble started to play a tune on his flute. "Oh, that's perfect," Berry said in astonishment. Christmas Eve at last arrived. The ladybird girl had wrapped the cushion that she had made as a present. There was a sudden knock at the door. Berry was standing there and he asked Dolly to close her eyes. "You can come now, Dolly," Berry shouted, and the ladybird girl stepped into the room. "Oh, a music box," she said in surprise. "It's wonderful," she said and smiled as she hugged Berry. Then she hugged Flutter and took a peek under the box. "Come and spend Christmas with me," said the ladybird girl. They had just sat down when there was a knock on the window. "I'm sorry I'm late, Berry, but I got caught in a snowstorm," Magpie stuttered and handed the music box to Berry. Then Berry handed it to Dolly. The magpie decided to stay for a while, and they all spent Christmas together. July. Alfonso's Ice Lollies. One warm summer day, Alfonso the cricket invited Bubble the flower beetle, Berry the snail boy, and Dolly the ladybird girl to his house for the afternoon. "Let's make ice lollies," he suggested. "But what from and how?" asked Bubble. It's very simple. We just squash a little fruit and put it in paper cups. Then we put sticks in to make ice lollies. Then we pop the cups into the freezer and wait until they're frozen. Then we pull them out of the cups and they're finished. So they made the puree, filled the cups and put them in the freezer. We can play memory while they're freezing. I brought my memory cards with me, said Bubble. The cards were circular with pictures of all kinds of fruit on them. There were 2 of each, and the game was to find the matching card. Dolly realised that Bubble kept winning. Oh, Bubble, you're cheating. You've marked the cards. No, I haven't. Yes, you have, the ladybird girl barked. OK, yes, I marked the cards, but I don't like losing, said the little flower beetle, and he burst into tears. I don't like losing either, Berry added. I've got an idea, the cricket announced. What if we think up a game where we don't play against each other, but together, like a team? Berry also had an idea. Not long ago, Eddie, Balthazar, Morris and I decided to catch a train. We ran after it, but Morris was too slow, and we decided that none of us would travel on the train. Why are you saying that? Bubble asked. Because we could make a good game out of that, Berry explained. The idea is that all 4 players have to arrive at the train before the train driver. If the train driver is quicker, you lose the game because the train is left without you. That's a super idea. Let's make a dice, said Dolly, and she painted dots on a wooden building block. Alfonso found 5 coloured stones from his pebble collection. These will be the counters, he proudly announced. Then he produced a piece of paper and they drew 5 paths, the train and the players' houses. Alfonso can start from the orange dot, Dolly from the red, and me from the blue, and Bubble from the yellow, Berry explained. And the engine driver can start from the green dot, Bubble decided. Let's start! The engine driver was very nearly there when the last of the 4 players arrived at the platform. Yes, we won! Bubble shouted out. It's time we checked on the ice lollies, the cricket interrupted. Alfonso was right, and the ice lollies were frozen. They all enjoyed their ice-cold treats. Come on, let's go for a swim, said Alfonso when they had all eaten their lollies. They were soon joined by a visitor as the rainbow fish swam past them. Berry and Dolly asked their fishy friend to let them jump off its back into the water, and it happily joined in the fun. Then the friends spent the rest of the summer afternoon splashing around until they got tired and it was time to go home.
Little kids and big kids. There were 2 football pitches next to the kindergarten. The little kids played next to the pine tree. Bubble the baby beetle was the captain, the little bark beetle was goalie, and the ant boys made up the rest of the team. The big kids played in the shade of the oak tree. Stanley the stag beetle, Balthazar the bumblebee, Eddie the potato beetle, and Berry the snail boy. The little kids played with a spotty rubber ball. The big kids had a proper football. One autumn day, Balthazar picked up the little kid's ball and he started to do tricks with it. Look at this, he teased. Give it back, it's ours, Bubble whined. I only want to show you how high I can kick it, boasted Balthazar, and he gave the rubber ball a mighty kick. He kicked it so hard that the ball burst. Now there's only one ball left. The little kids can have it in the morning and the big kids can play with it in the afternoon, the kindergarten teacher decreed. The big kids kept taking the ball from the little kids. And the little kids would steal it from the big kids. They were constantly quarrelling. Why don't you play together? Dolly asked the boys. Together? Never. The little kids are weedy and clumsy, yelled Stanley the stag beetle. And the big kids are horrid and pushy, the little ant boy shouted back. Stop being so silly. Play a match instead. Little kids versus big kids. How can 4 little kids win against 4 big kids? The bark beetle complained. All right then. Leapy and I will join in with the little kids. Then there'll be 6 of us against 4 big kids. How about that? The ladybird girl asked. Super! They all agreed. They started to play. They had so much fun that they hardly noticed the time fly by. In the end, thanks to a tricky goal from Bubble, the little kids won the match 5-4. Same again tomorrow, Balthazar said to Bubble the baby beetle. We can play a rematch. The next day they played the rematch. This time, the big kids beat Bubble's team 4-3. The little kids aren't so clumsy after all, Stanley grumbled, and the 2 captains shook hands. A new boy came to kindergarten the day after that. The little flea brought his own stripy ball, and he let the little kids play with it. This meant that Bubbles' team went back to the pine tree and the big kids stayed on the larger pitch. They sometimes played together after that, but they did not count the goals. Bubble has hiccups. One fine day in autumn, Berry, Dolly, Balthazar, Flutter, Stanley and Bubble set off on a walk to the waterfall. Bubble suddenly started to hiccup. Balthazar offered him his water bottle. Have a drink of water, that'll stop it. Bubble took a couple of gulps, but his hiccups still didn't stop. Have a bite to eat, Dolly told him. That'll stop it. Bubble bit into his bread roll, but his hiccups still didn't stop. Hold your breath for a while, that'll stop it, Flutter advised. Bubble held his breath for a long while, but his hiccups still didn't stop. In the end, Stanley came up with a plan to make Bubble jump. He hurried off and hid behind a big tree. Just as Bubble was walking past, he jumped out with a shout from behind the tree and gave the flower beetle a fright. In fact, he was so shocked he fell over. And his hiccups stopped. But now Bubble was cross with Stanley. That was a very mean thing to do. I don't jump out at you from behind trees. I only wanted to help. I stopped your hiccups. I still don't like it when people make me jump, Bubble grumbled. All right, I won't help you next time, the stag beetle shouted back. They all carried on their way and soon arrived at the waterfall. It looks so lovely, Bubble shouted, and he ran so fast towards the waterfall that he slipped right in. Stanley caught him by the arms at the very last minute and pulled him out of the water. Thank you, Bubble snivelled. I'm sorry I got so cross. We need to get home as quickly as we can because Bubble is soaked to the skin. He could catch a chill, Dolly said with concern. They then all heard thunderous footsteps from behind the trees and an enormous lizard appeared right before them. Don't be afraid of me, he said. Which way are you going? I'll happily give you a ride on my back. The forest friends were delighted by the idea and happily hopped onto the lizard's back. And as they made their way back home, Bubble slowly started to hiccup again. I'm definitely not going to make you jump again. Hiccups can stop just as easily on their own. Exactly what happened. By the time the lizard arrived back at Bubble's house, his hiccups had completely stopped. The little beetle said goodbye to all his pals. After Bubble, the lizard took Stanley and Balthazar to their houses. The stag beetle and the bumblebee thanked him for the ride and waved him happily on his way. Soon after that, they arrived at Dolly's house, where the ladybird girl said goodbye to her friends and hopped off the lizard's back, shortly followed by Berry. Flutter was now the final passenger, and it was getting dark by the time the lizard delivered her back home. Thanks so much for all your help, lizard, Flutter said, before stepping into her house, where she went straight to bed. The football match. One morning, Stanley was woken by the sound of someone knocking on his door. Stanley, it's me, Frank. The little stag beetle crawled out of his bed and saw Frank the longhorn beetle. Hello there, Frank. It's super to see you, Stanley said, and the old pals hugged. I brought this for you. A football, hooray! We'll need teams to play a proper game, Frank reminded him. Then we'll tell the others to come and we'll have proper teams, the stag beetle suggested. The two boys called on all the others to come and play football with them. They visited every house, and by the time they had reached the edge of the forest, they had 2 teams. Alfonso agreed to be the referee. We should sew them football shirts, Rosita suggested. One team can play in blue and one team can play in red. The footballers spent the whole week training. We sewed these for you, Zephyr told them, and she handed the red and blue shirts to Stanley. Thank you, the two teams said together, and they slipped on their new football shirts. Dolly and Rosita set benches up, and the spectators all sat at the side of the pitch. Alfonso blew his referee's whistle, and the match began. That's it, run, Bubble, Stanley yelled. Here, pass it to me, Bubble shouted. Hooray! The blue team cheered as they all embraced. Come on, Reds! Come on, Blues! The crowd cheered. That's not fair, Frank. You can't touch the ball with your hand, the b-boy complained. Balthazar's right. Don't do it again, Frank. It's against the rules, the referee said. The match got very exciting. The Blues were leading 3-2 when the game stopped again. Frank tripped me up, Bubble complained. Yes, I saw that too, Alfonso agreed. I'll have to send you off if you break the rules again, Frank. Stanley's team looked set to win. Frank started to get crosser and crosser. I'm going to score a goal now, he shouted, and he pushed Berry so hard that they ended up falling over and Frank shouted out in pain. Ouch! My arm! The others all ran over. I'll run and fetch Dr. Owl, Zephyr announced. If you hadn't hurt yourself so badly, I'd send you off, Alfonso said. Yes, I know, Frank said sadly, but my hand really hurts. Dr. Owl was soon at the scene. Well, you've broken your arm. I'll have to put it in plaster, and you'll have to keep it on for 4 weeks. You'll need to look after it and no running around. The blue team won the football match. We'll have to wait a while before we can play again, Stanley said, and he patted Frank on the back. Don't be sad, you'll soon be as fit as a fiddle again. I'm sorry that I broke the rules, Frank sniffed. I promise to play fairly when my arm has mended, and we can have another good game of football. I think we should all decorate Frank's plaster cast, Dolly said with a grin. Let's go back to my house for a snack. The big crowd of friends all piled into Dolly's spotty house. They got her crayons out and drew all kinds of funny things on the longhorn beetle's plaster. I'm going to keep it as a souvenir after Dr. Owl takes it off, Frank told them all. Then all the friends sat around the table and ate every last piece of the delicious sponge roll. Flutter goes skiing. On a winter day, Iris the ice beetle invited all her friends to go skiing. Has everyone got skis? She asked. I haven't, said Berry. And I haven't, Leapy the grasshopper girl joined in. Neither have I, Flutter the butterfly added. Then let's make some skis for you. It isn't hard, Iris said with a smile. The friends all joined in. They sawed and sanded thin planks of wood, fixed foot straps to them, and made poles for everyone. And the skis were finished by lunchtime. They all walked up the hill together. When they got to the top, they strapped on their skis and put on their ski helmets. Then Iris asked, Does everyone know how to ski? I can teach anyone who doesn't. They all nodded except for Flutter. The little butterfly girl didn't know how to ski, but she didn't say anything. It can't be all that hard. I'll soon get the hang of it, she thought to herself. She only dared whisper the truth to the green grub. Berry was the first to go. Whoopee! He shouted with a broad grin as he sped down the snowy hillside. Dolly came after Berry, and then Balthazar, and then the others. Flutter was the last one to set off. She took a deep breath and pushed herself off. The only problem was she didn't know how to stop. She carried on skiing over the next hill and then the hill after that until she had skied a very long way away from the others. The little butterfly girl only stopped when she fell over into a big pile of snow. It was a while before the others realised that Flutter was missing.
Flutter doesn't know how to ski,
the green grub eventually told them. She can't ski, they all asked in surprise.
This was her first time. She was very nervous, but she didn't dare to mention it. Oh, I'm frightened that something terrible has happened to her.
The friends set off to search for Flutter. Dr. Owl was flying past and he spotted Flutter in the snow below.
Flutter, what happened to you?
He asked.
I couldn't stop and I fell over in the snow. I really hurt myself. I thought I'd never be able to stop. I don't want to ski again,
Flutter sobbed. Dr. Owl felt very sorry for the little butterfly girl, so he put her on his back and took her to his house.
I'll bandage you up and then I'll take you to Iris's house. I'm sure the others will be looking for you,
Dr. Owl said in a reassuring voice. The little friends frantically searched around, but they couldn't find Flutter anywhere. They walked sadly back to Iris's house. But Flutter was waiting for them when they arrived. They were overjoyed.
Hooray! Are you all right, Flutter? Tell us what happened to you,
Dolly told her. Flutter told them the whole story from beginning to end.
So you don't know how to ski?
Iris asked in surprise.
I'll teach you. You'll soon learn how to turn and stop, and you'll be able to ski down even the steepest hills. Thank you,
the butterfly girl said with a smile. Iris started to teach Flutter to ski the very next morning. By the end of the first day, the little butterfly girl could ski down small hills and stop safely at the bottom.
Look! Flutter can ski! This calls for a celebration,
Stanley shouted, and he started to play a tune on the icicles. The others sang and danced around the happy little butterfly. Blueberries. One sunny autumn day, Berry and Dolly went into the forest to pick blueberries. Their friends Flutter the butterfly and Eddie the potato beetle went with them.
I'm going to pick the most blueberries,
Eddie announced.
Look, this bush is full of ripe blueberries,
the little snail said.
I'm going to pick them all.
But Eddie jumped in front of Berry and quickly picked the biggest berries.
This bush is full of berries too,
Dolly told the others. But the little potato beetle was faster again. By the time Dolly got to the bush, he'd already picked the best of the berries.
Eddie, that's not fair. Don't pick all the berries,
the little ladybird complained. Then the friends came to a stream.
Let's build a bridge over the stream,
Flutter suggested.
And I know exactly how. Let's all go and bring that big log here.
They had to work hard to pull the heavy log over the stream. The little friends made a super bridge together.
It's done,
Flutter sighed.
Look, there's another blueberry bush with lots of berries on it.
That was Eddie's cue.
I'm going to get there first. Those blueberries are all mine,
he shouted triumphantly. But he pushed past Flutter so hard that she slipped and fell into the stream.
Help!
Don't worry, Flutter. Hold on to me, Dolly shouted and stretched her hand out to the floundering butterfly. But the water flowed too fast and Flutter couldn't reach Dolly. Berry picked up a long stick.
Grab the stick, Flutter,
he shouted. But this didn't work either because the river started to carry the little butterfly away.
Eddie, help! We've got to pull poor Flutter out of the water, Dolly yelled, and they pulled the soggy butterfly out of the stream. Oh my, I'm so cold. I'm very, very cold. And my little wings are soaked through. Here, take my jumper. It's all my fault. I'm so sorry, Flutter, Eddie said. That's very nice of you, Dolly said, but you'll catch a cold too without your jumper. We should collect a large pile of leaves and wrap Flutter up in them. Berry, Dolly and Eddie gathered a big bunch of burdock leaves and covered the shivering butterfly with them. I'm still very cold and my wings don't work. Look, they're all wet and ruined. Flutter started to sob. The sun took pity on the weeping butterfly and came down close to warm her wings. Flutter's wings were soon beautifully dry and as good as new. Hooray! I'm all dry and warm at last. Thank you, sun, Flutter said with a smile. I'm so sorry, Flutter, Eddie said. I promise I won't pick all the blueberries next time. I want you to have all the ones that I've picked. Thank you, Eddie. Why don't we share them instead? Let's hurry home and bake a blueberry pie. The friends all walked back to Flutter's house and got to work straight away. They picked all the leaves off and gave the blueberries a good wash. Spoons stirred and pans clattered until the kitchen was filled with the sweet smell of delicious blueberry pie. The yummy dessert was soon ready. Stanley the stag beetle, Balthazar the bee and Bubble the baby beetle came along to join the feast. The forest friends all sat around the table and chatted late into the night. Stanley Skates. It was a crispy winter day and Berry and Dolly were walking by the lake. It had frozen over and was covered by a very thick layer of ice. Come on, Dolly, let's slide on the ice, the little snail suggested. The ladybird happily agreed. Berry and Dolly stepped cautiously onto the ice. They held on tightly to each other and began to slide slowly around. They were really having a wonderful time. They soon warmed up. They fell over every now and then, but when they did, they just laughed and carried on playing. Stanley the stag beetle stood and watched them. Stanley, you have to try this. Come and slide with us, it's so much fun, Berry said to his friend. Stanley was slightly scared but stepped onto the ice out of curiosity. Ah! He yelled as his feet slipped out from under him and he fell on his bottom. Berry and Dolly ran over to him. We'll give you a hand, Stanley. The two friends stood either side of Stanley and guided him slowly forward. Now we'll let go of you and you can try by yourself, Dolly told him. Then the snail and the ladybird let Stanley go. Slow down, Stanley, Dolly shouted, and Stanley tried to stop, but he stumbled and sped into a patch of prickly bushes. Help! I'm full of prickles and my antler hurts. It hurts a lot. Dolly ran over quickly to take a look at the injured stag beetle. Don't give up, Dolly said, and bandaged Stanley's painful antler with her dotty scarf. Just then, a beautiful girl beetle slid out onto the ice. She moved over the frozen surface of the water as gracefully as can be. Wow, who are you? Dolly asked. I'm Iris the ice beetle. Hi, Iris. She's Dolly the ladybird, he's Stanley the stag beetle, and I'm Berry the snail, Berry said in his politest voice.
How do you manage to glide on the ice like that?
Stanley asked the stranger. Because I'm wearing ice skates, special shoes that can slide on the ice, Iris replied. You have to buckle them to your boots. Did you make them yourself? Berry asked curiously. Yes, I made them. It's really not that difficult. I can make ice skates for all of you if you like. Hooray! The three friends shouted excitedly. Berry, Dolly, Stanley and Iris went to the forest together. Iris sorted through the branches lying on the ground and eventually found one good for the job. They all got to work, sawing and hammering in tiny nails. Everybody did their share. They're finished, Iris eventually announced, and there were 3 pairs of brand new ice skates sitting on the table. Berry and Dolly felt a little bit nervous as they fastened their new ice skates on, but Stanley was the most worried. Berry and Dolly held onto each other and stepped out onto the ice. Iris helped Stanley.
Sliding on the ice is so much better with ice skates,
Stanley laughed. Iris held Stanley's hand for a long time before he was happy to slide all on his own. He soon learned how to turn and start and stop.
I can do it! I can ice skate!
He announced at the end of a very long but happy day.